All right. So here we had Anders tweeting about stepping up his SEO game. He runs Coolify, a self-hosted Heroku, Netlify, Vercel, so backend or full stack platforms with a big focus on open source and self-hosting. Looking for something like self-hosted Vercel, you will see that he doesn't show up here, and I think the main reason for that is that there's not a lot of content on the website itself. There seems to be traffic. I mean, this might be driven through Coolify branded search mainly. As you can see here, there's some stuff going on, but not for any of the Vercel alternative, etc. So I built the roadmap mainly around bottom of the funnel, Heroku alternative, Netlify alternative. These are all bottom of the funnel pages to kind of appeal to a certain type of user. Probably maybe would start with something like self-hosted Heroku, maybe self-hosted Vercel, to tap into these conversations that are happening. And then obviously the kind of comparison versus pages. And maybe there's also something to be said how we can tap into open source hosting, which doesn't seem too competitive. I think Coolify. That was wrong. Has a 43, so could be competitive here. I think then going into technologies, I also mentioned that on the tweet itself. So alternatives, self-hosted use cases, Node.js, Rails, Heroku, whatever you can kind of self-host, featuring on personas, and then kind of turning these features here into feature pages to be standalone and be just a bit more deep here on the kind of, this is just a one pager, basically like a one page homepage. Self-hosted. But yeah, this is more or less a start, I guess, right? But just expanding on these kind of self-hosted, maybe even on the cloud offering, but that would be more competitive, I would say. And I think this self-hosted one is a good way to get people in the door, and then once they're kind of tired of self-hosting, you might be able to convert them to your customer, because that's in the end what these services live off of, right? Which is convenience. But there's something to be said about removing the vendor lock-in more or less here, because I can at any time self-host this quite easily, as that is the core of your offering, right? All right, that's it. Cheers.